Thank you. Eiji!
You're quite the success. You're a bona fide best-selling mystery writer now, Haruka. Oh, here.
We couldn't have done it without your help, Eiji. Thank you.
It's nothing.
You should have told me you were coming. You didn't have to wait in line. Did you really come here for my autograph? Or are you here to see Akari?
No, it's not like that.
Huh?
I mean, let's just say I wanted to see the both of you. Actually, I have a favor to ask of you.
A favor?
Yeah. There's a once-in-a-century succession at my family home. And I was hoping you could get some information for me.
Your family home? You mean that grand estate at the foot of Mount Fuji?
That's right. My family has spent many years on medical research. In particular, how to stop the aging process. It's embarrassing, but I had a huge fight with my father that ended with me leaving the family. And that's why I want you to do some investigating, while pretending to write a feature story.
What are we investigating?
The so-called fruit of youth. It's been passed down for generations in my family and a recently unearthed skeleton.
At 3 p.m. yesterday, the police were informed that skeletal remains had been found at an estate in Tenmamura, Fujimine County, Shizuoka. The remains, of indeterminate age and gender, were buried under a large cherry tree. The police are trying to establish the identity of the deceased.
Who'd have thought? Eiji, a literary consultant.
Yes. Haruka here writes mystery novels, and he makes sure that all the science is sound.
So, does he come up with the crime tricks too?
No, I devised them myself.
That's amazing. I read mysteries sometimes, but I never know who the culprit is. Is there some secret to figuring them out?
Well, it sounds obvious, but every story contains a mystery, and there will always be clues to help solve that mystery. Just try to connect these clues, and somehow you'll arrive at a hypothesis.
Connect the clues to the mystery.
Yes. Every story has a mystery, as well as clues to help solve that mystery. In this cognitive space, I fit the mystery and clues together like a puzzle, come up with a hypothesis, and build a connected path of logic.
And I'm here to help with the reasoning, huh?
Yes, but remember, you're just an image of Eiji inside my head.
Well, then...
Let's give it a shot. Well, something like that.
I see.
Connect the clues to the mystery and form a hypothesis. That's how you read a mystery novel.
Akari, you are an editor, right? How do you know E.G.?
I met him when we were looking for an advisor on scientific matters. We practically forced him to arrange today's session as well. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet us.
Ryoye insist on it. Please, make yourselves comfortable.
Thank you.
Oh, that looks very good on you.
It's been ages since I last wore a kimono.
You look so handsome in it.
She's right. I barely recognize you.
Well, I can't attend the cherry blossom ceremony in my regular clothes. It was all laid out for me, and most importantly...
You wanted to look good for Akari?
Of course not.
All the same, I'm glad there was a spare kimono for him.
Whose kimono is it?
Actually, this kimono was made for me a long time ago.
Oh, we have guests. I'm sorry for intruding. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Sorry. Have we met?
Yoyoi's only been with us for 3 years. Or perhaps you know one another from before?
No. There's just a familiar scent in the air.
That's probably me. I'm wearing a perfume with citrus notes.
Now that you mention it, that does smell refreshing. Anyway, this is our live-in housekeeper, Yayoi. You wanted to see me?
Mr. Shijima asked me to gather the equipment for the cherry blossom ceremony, but I just can't find some of the items.
Let's look for them together, shall we? E.g., I will join you later. Everyone, please go on ahead to the Shijima cherry tree.
So, was that your mother, Eiji?
Or perhaps your stepmother?
How did you know?
Oh, well. It seemed like she didn't know you had your own kimono. A mother would definitely have known, and anyway, she's too young.
Very observant, Haruka.
Also, you were about to say something earlier, weren't you? Most importantly, my mother gave me this kimono. Is that what you were going to say?
Yoko is my father's second wife. They got married after I left the family.
I see. Well, she seems nice.
Yeah. I guess.
She was in the house when the skeleton was found, correct? I've got to ask her about that later.
Just remember, you're supposed to be writing about the ceremony. I can't imagine what my father would say if he finds out what I've asked you to do.
What? Is he that scary?
Well, you'll see when you meet him.
Sure.
Well then, let's go see the cherry tree.
Wow. So this is the Shijima cherry tree.
In bloom for the first time in 100 years.
The skeleton was found under this tree, right?
Yeah. Who killed and buried that sad soul here, I wonder?
Killed?
The skeleton's chest bones had marks that suggested a knife wound, apparently.
But then, shouldn't the police be investigating this?
My father's in a standoff with the police right now. He told them not to say anything until the remains were identified. But somehow, the story got leaked to the media. But the remains are nearly 100 years old, apparently. So the police have no reason to hurry. That's why I want to solve this mystery.
So what you want to know is... the killer from 100 years ago, right?
The identities of both the skeleton and the killer.
Say you do uncover the truth about this 100-year-old murder, then what?
It's of great importance to me, actually. I suspect that skeleton has something to do with the Shijima family's fruit of youth.
You've mentioned that fruit before. What is it?
More precisely, the Tokijiku no Kaku no Konomi. According to my mother, anyone who consumes this fruit will stop aging forever. It's mentioned in the Kojiki Chronicles. This fruit of youth has been passed down for generations in my family. Although I've never seen it, and my father won't tell me anything about it. But if it's somewhere in that house, I'm going to find it and rewrite the future of medicine.
Eiji, you realize it's strange for a scientist to be saying all that, right?
But it isn't strange at all. Science offers countermeasures to aging.
Really?
The telomeres at the ends of the human chromosome determines how many times a cell can divide. They're like game tokens, and aging is what happens when tokens get spent. But some forms of life have an endless supply of these tokens.
Endless?
Yeah. Cancer cells, for example. They're able to multiply infinitely because their telomeres constantly repair themselves. In effect, they're ageless. That's why it isn't totally bizarre that a fruit might contain components that stop aging.
A fruit that makes people ageless. And it's called the, Tokijiku no.
Tokijiku's fine.
What does this Tokijiku have to do with our skeleton?
I found an account of a murder committed 100 years ago, and it mentions the Tokijiku. Based on the proximity and dates, that skeleton might just be related to this case.
A murder?
I don't know the details, but the Shijima family history is full of unsolved cases, unnatural deaths, that sort of thing. Please, Haruka, I want to know the Tokijiku's whereabouts and the truth behind my family's involvement in that skeleton. Will you help me?
He'll owe me one for this. I'd be glad to help. But where should I start?
I have just the reading material for you.
Reading material?
And it's right up your...
Didn't think you'd be the first one here.
Long time no see, AG.
You really think you can just waltz back in here and interfere with the family's succession?
You're Haruka Kagami, aren't you? Author of the Detective Makoto Nishimari series.
You know about it?
Of course. Look, Kazunaga. She created Makoto Nishimari. You know, with the cool catchphrase, the path of logic lines up.
Never heard of it.
This is Haruka Kagami, a writer, and her editor, Akari Yamase. My older brother, Kazunaga, and my younger brother, Mitsunori.
Nice to meet you. Just wondering, what brings you two here?
Haruka's writing a feature story.
About the skeleton under the cherry tree. I bet a mystery writer like you can't get enough.
I don't need to play nice with him. I'm dying to know more is the answer you're looking for, yes?
Given your expertise, why don't you try figuring it out yourself? The identity of that skeleton, I mean. Then you can proclaim the path of logic lines up.
Of course. I'll look into it.
Thank you for having us.
Eiji, long time no see.
Dad, you're looking well.
You look terrible in a kimono.
Then it's good that I'll never have to wear one for work.
Not that you look any better in a lab coat, mind you. After leaving the family, what exactly have you been researching?
That's none of your business.
So be it. Welcome. I am Ryoe Shijima. And you must be the best-selling writer.
You have heard of me?
I haven't read any of your books, though. So you're interested in our cherry blossom ceremony? This ceremony is an important family tradition, held once every 100 years. Feel free to take part and ask questions, but I ask you not to interfere. We don't usually let outsiders attend, after all.
We understand. Thank you. I promise we won't cause any inconvenience.
To be honest, that skeleton has attracted a lot of unwanted media attention. Such a nuisance. If this story of yours can help clarify matters, we'd be very grateful.
Who's that?
Oh, that's our gardener, Takehiko Kusakari. He's looked after this cherry tree for us for many years.
Excellent work. You should be proud, Kusakari.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Then let us begin.
About Ryoe. How much does he know about me?
What do you mean?
Something he said makes me think that Ryoe actually called me a best-selling writer. But I get the feeling he doesn't know that I write mystery novels.
I was vague about that part in my request.
Huh?
Well, do you think he'd really let a pop fiction writer come in here to do a story about their centuries-old tradition?
I think he would. By the way, where did everyone go?
Oh, they're lighting incense at the altar.
What's the matter?
It's nothing. Just seem to have lost my phone strap. Maybe back at the cherry tree? I'll take a look later. Anyway, what do you make of everything so far?
The cherry blossom ceremony, this estate, the skeleton, and this Tokijiku business. Everything's a mystery. That reminds me, you mentioned some reading material?
Ah, right. This could be our first clue, I think. Eiji found it, by the way.
Shinseinen, the very first magazine to publish Edogawa Rampo.
You sure know your stuff. This issue, published nearly 100 years ago, contains the first part of a novel. The writer's name is Yoshino Shijima.
Shijima? As in one of Eiji's ancestors?
It was supposed to be a serial novel, but for some reason, the other parts were never published. And guess what? The Tokijiku appears in the story. This is the 100-year-old murder case that Eiji mentioned.
But it's fiction, right?
It's presented that way. Yes, but what's written here actually happened.
So, it's a true story?
If you read this, you'll learn about what happened to the Tokijiku in the Taisho era.
All right, I'll get started.
But there's just one problem.
Huh?
Some pages have holes in them, some are missing. It's not a complete story, I'm afraid.
You're right. This looks painful to read. It's full of archaic expressions, too.
But in your hands, it just might be solved.
Huh?
How about imagining the characters as people you know in real life? For example, the young protagonist. She wants to be a writer. That sounds very much like you, doesn't it?
Then what about this partner of hers, Josie? Who would this be?
A smart, somewhat aloof man. Does anyone come to mind?
Eiji, I guess.
What's important is how easy it is for your imagination. Focus on that.
Right. And as for the other characters...
You could try imagining them as people from the Shijima household.
The Shijima household? Of course, I'll give it a shot. We first met in the spring of 1922, the 11th year of the Taisho era. Industries languished after the end of the Great War, and disease ravaged the country once more. Many lives were lost during those dark days. But that was precisely why we pursued the joys and ambitions of life with even greater zeal. Democracy, the human right to liberty and equality. The flowers of modernity had bloomed, and they were growing out from the skulls of our dead. On that day, somewhere in Tokyo, At the residence of one Ginsaku Goto, a private auction was about to start. I heard rumors that the Tokijiku, the so-called fruit of youth, would be up for sale, and so I was on the lookout for a way in. All for the sake of that fruit.
Masanori! Setsu!
I'm very much looking forward to today, Ginsaku.
As am I, dear Setsu. Well, please come in. You too, Setsu.
Not here.
Interesting. Ugh! I'm sorry.
Could I have that back, please?
Sorry. Excuse me. That's pig's blood, isn't it? What's it for? That's an awfully fancy bottle for pig's blood. We had pigs back home, you see. I remember it well, since my darling pigs kept getting turned into food.
You can tell from just one look.
Well...
This is a very precious item.
Is this person going to the private auction? What are you gonna sell it as, huh? A panacea? Or dragon's blood, perhaps?
Who are you?
I'm Yoshino Shijima. You're taking part in that private auction, aren't you? I'd like to attend as well. But I heard that every participant has to bring some item related to eternal youth or immortality. She seems to be an exception, though.
Who?
The woman who went inside. I'm pretty sure she has a special relationship with the organizer. I guess people like her are welcome, too.
Why do you think that?
They touched each other discreetly, so the man beside them wouldn't notice. They seemed used to that. Wait! Don't go. You don't want me telling everyone that it's just pig's blood, do you?
What do you want from me?
Call me your companion or whatever. Just take me inside with you. Please!
Your reasoning is flawed. That woman is a legitimate participant.
Hey! Wait!
Are you coming?
You let me in.
You've got a keen eye. It might come in handy.
Thank you.
Ah, welcome.
The name's Josui Kusaka. I heard about the auction from Setsu.
You knew who she was? That's not fair.
Yes, she mentioned you. Josui, yes? Setsu's already inside. And this is?
She's my traveling companion. Please don't mind her.
I see. Well, then come in. Have some tea while we wait for the auction to start. Is something wrong?
I saw something strange in that window. I had infiltrated the auction with some unexpected assistance. Now I needed an opportunity to seize the Tokijiku. Let's do this. This is going to turn into a romance plot with Eiji, isn't it?
You mean Josui, right? Not Eiji. You're just borrowing faces and voices, remember?
That's right. Back to the story.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I'm the head of this estate, Ginsaku Goto. The auction will begin at noon, about an hour from now. Please make yourselves at home until then.
Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Kinu Kotomiya, and I deal in antiques. As you must have heard from Ginsaku, all of today's items have some relation to eternal youth. The items you've brought will be put on display, and you'll bid for items that catch your fancy. It's time to show us how skilled you are at buying low and selling high. I hope we have an exhilarating auction.
I know anything to do with eternal youth is probably a scam, but I just love the idea of it. The romance.
What did everyone bring? Oh, I can't wait.
I hear you're a collector of strange and bizarre tales, Setsu.
Yes, that's why my curiosity is so easily piqued. What have you brought?
Dragon's blood. Oh. Long sought after by those in power. Its ability to grant eternal youth is celebrated in legends throughout the world.
Oh, well, dragon's blood. A thing of immense value if it were real.
A shame it's pig's blood.
Well, my item was once kept in a certain Hachiman shrine and venerated as a relic. Legend says it's the sword of Taira no Masakado.
Lord Masakado?
Indeed. Lord Masakado was beheaded, and some accounts say his head never rotted. One could say that his sword is connected to agelessness, too.
Let me hold it.
Be careful.
Whose blood does it thirst for today, I wonder?
That's enough, Setsu.
And as for my item, are you familiar with the legend of the Tokijiku no Kaku no Konomi?
It's what Tajimomori found in the mythical land across the seas, isn't it?
I see you've done your research.
It's my job, after all.
Masanori is a medical researcher who also works for the Army Institute of Scientific Research.
I'm investigating ways to make soldiers stronger, and that includes the topic of agelessness.
Apparently, a certain family has been watching over the fruit of youth for generations.
Well, that's news to me.
But then this family fell into ruin, and all the Tokijiku were lost. Although, I somehow managed to get my hands on one. Look!
Word, this is...
It was indeed a Tokijiku, the very same one I'd been trying to find. No, to reclaim.
Everything I've heard. So I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be the real deal.
Oh, you're all experts at this, aren't you? Now then, we can't leave your valuable items lying around like this. We'll store them in a locked room until the auction starts. This way, please.
Let's go.
That leads to the basement.
Hold on a second.
Huh?
You're after the Tokijiku, aren't you?
Why do you think that?
If you won't be honest with me, you can go back outside.
Something the matter, Josui?
I'm sorry. A companion wandered off.
As they always do. This way, please.
Don't think you're off the hook.
Are you sure it's safe to put everything in here?
This door will be locked from the outside, and I'll guard this with the utmost care, so there's nothing to worry about.
What is this?
Oh, don't touch that. That's my item for the auction.
It's quite large.
Indeed. Let's have a look, shall we? Just a peek, though. One careless move, and we'll all be cursed.
Huh?
Yes, it's a mummy. You've all heard stories about how consuming a mummy grants longevity, I suppose. But this is no ordinary mummy. This here is a living corpse. Some claim it wanders the night in search of human blood. Whether this form of eternal life brings happiness is another question altogether, of course.
Let's return to the manor. There's still time before the auction begins at noon. Some light refreshments in the lounge, perhaps.
Yes.
What'll it be? Speak or leave now.
I'm going to reclaim the Tokijiku. It belongs to my family, after all.
Your family?
Yes, my family situation is somewhat complicated. My father entrusted me with the Tokijiku when he told me to leave our house. But I didn't know where to go. Then I came down with a fever and fell asleep in some temple. And when I awoke...
The Tokijiku was gone.
Yes. I searched everywhere, to no avail. That's when I heard about this auction from an antiques dealer. I knew it'd be here. But there was no way I could scrounge up what I needed to get inside. That fruit is very precious to me. I have to get it back, no matter what.
It seems you and I have the same goal.
What?
I'm also here to steal the Tokijiku. I never intended to take part in the auction. What do you say to working together? We'll join forces to get the Tokijiku.
Can I really trust Josie? But I can't let it fall into your...
We'll discuss that later. In any case, you still seem to be in bad shape. It's fine if you want to make an enemy of me, but then I'll tell everyone the truth about you.
But...
No means no, Setsu.
Come on, Ginsaku, please.
I have a reputation to uphold.
But it's a brilliant idea, isn't it?
I won't allow it. You are not getting this key.
Don't worry. No one will suspect a thing. I'll just tamper with their items a bit, you know? Make it look like mice got into the room. Then, our items will go for higher prices, and we can get theirs for cheap.
I've already told you no. My dear Setsu, don't you realize how crass you sound right now?
You have to understand, Kinsaku. I told so many people about this auction and gathered all these items here. All because I want you to live even just a little bit longer. You'll give me the key, won't you?
No one can know that you got the key from me. Return it when you're done.
What's wrong? You're burning up.
I'll be fine. You must get the Tokijiku. Not again. How long was I out for?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Then it's almost noon. The auction will start without us.
It can wait. How are you feeling?
I'm fine. We've got to find the Tokijiku.
So will it be? I think it's best for us to work together.
Fine. The Tokijiku is mine, though.
If you say so. You've got grit, I like that. Setsu hasn't returned yet from inside the storeroom.
And she's alone in there. Now's our chance to get the fruit.
Let's go. Can you walk?
Yes.
The door's locked.
We missed the perfect opportunity. I'm sorry. If only I hadn't passed out.
Who's there? Ah, it's you two. Everyone's looking for you. What were you doing here?
Well,
Just what are you up to?
We'll be honest with you. We saw Setsu ask Ginsaku to give her the key to this room. I thought she might do something to the auction items, so he came to take a look.
Setsu has the key? Are you sure?
Yes, but she doesn't seem to be here anymore. She must have gone back to the manor.
Actually, she's not there either.
What? Not even in Ginsaku's room.
Indeed. The auction is going to start any minute now. Are you sure she's still not in there?
The door's locked.
Setsu! Setsu! Are you in there? Setsu!
this is... Wait! Is this... blood? Is someone at the end of the corridor?
It's alive! It's alive! He moved! He moved! He moved!
What's going on?
The mummy! The mummy's alive! That masked mummy, the one Ginsaku brought.
It was holding a sword covered in blood.
How absurd. Are you sure you aren't imagining things?
Yes, I saw it with my own eyes. There were red stains in front of the storeroom door, and they were all along the corridor, and then there it was.
Kinu, have you been here the whole time since the items went in the storeroom?
No, I've just been wandering about the manor. Ginsaku and Masanori also went about their business, I'm sure.
So everyone was in separate places.
Where did Setsu go?
Ginsaku, where have you been?
Oh, Setsu's missing. I've been looking for her the whole time.
Perhaps she was killed by the mummy. Perhaps she touched something she wasn't supposed to, and this is her punishment.
Ginsaku, you gave Setsu the key to the storeroom, didn't you?
I don't know what
We
you're...
actually saw you hand over the key to her. She was going to damage the other items to reduce their value, isn't that right?
I told her... I was against it, but Setsu...
Is there a duplicate key?
No. That was the only key.
The door to the storeroom was locked just now. We saw the mummy outside the room, which means...
I see. That mummy must have taken the key from Setsu and then locked the door.
Wait a minute. What's all this about the mummy?
Your mummy, Ginsaku, might be a real living corpse after all.
In any case, first, we have to find Setsu.
Masanori, you'll go.
Me?
You're in the army, aren't you? You're probably the only man here who could win a fight. We're counting on you.
Fine.
Well?
I searched every inch of the manor, but
How about the storeroom?
I looked around it, but couldn't get inside. The door is still locked after all.
Well, let's go and check the storeroom together.
Good idea. Let's bring something to break the lock with.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Setsu!
Terrible! The Tokichiku, it's gone! There it is. Just a dried up old mummy. But then, what did we see earlier? We have to inform the police.
Wait. An investigation will be bad for both of us. Who knows what we'll be accused of?
You think we should run away?
If we run now, everyone will think we did it.
Then, what can we do?
We'll have to inform the police eventually.
But then we'll be suspects.
That's why we'll figure it out first. Before the police get here. We'll find the killer and prove it with hard evidence.
Hard evidence, of course.
What happened today? Who did what and where? We have to recall every last detail. There must be a clue somewhere. And when we find the killer, I'm sure we'll find the Tokijiku too.
The victim is Setsu, a collector of strange tales. Her body was found in a locked storeroom in the basement with her throat slit. The murder weapon was probably the blood-stained sword in the mummy's hand.
We caught sight of the mummy around the time of the murder. Aside from the sword, the mummy was also holding the storeroom key.
We have what appears to be a killer mummy. What could be the truth behind this case? Excuse me, everyone.
Yes. The auction will be canceled, of course. Once the police get here, they'll ask many questions, and I must ask all of you to leave.
Please, let me speak for a moment. This is going to be about Setsu's murder. One of us here is the killer, perhaps.
What?
I'll explain what I've figured out so far. First,
Wait a minute. Are we to let you play detective? I will not stand to be called a criminal based on some amateur's haphazard guesses.
The killer is among us, you say? There'll be real consequences if you're wrong. But if you're willing to take that risk, so be it. Let's hear you out.
thank you. First, about the mummy we saw. Right before the auction was to start at noon, Josie and I went to the storeroom. Masanori was there too. That was when we saw the mummy, wielding a blood-stained sword. Or so we thought at the time in our panic. But after some calm reflection, I think it's more likely that... It must have been someone in disguise.
A disguise, huh? That makes sense.
Of course. After murdering Setsu, the killer dressed up as the mummy and appeared in front of us.
In that case, whoever wasn't in the lounge when you saw the mummy must be the killer.
Kinu, you were the only one in the lounge at that time. The three of us saw the mummy.
Which means...
Wait a minute. Where are you going with this nonsense?
But you're the only one who could have appeared in front of them as the mummy.
Is he the killer?
Ginsaku? Ginsaku isn't the killer. Nor was he the person disguised as a mummy.
How can you be so sure? But no one else had the time to dress up like that.
The reason Ginsaku isn't the killer is... Ginsaku isn't the killer because the mummy had the key to the storeroom. After discovering Setsu's body, we found the mummy at the end of the corridor. And it was holding the key.
What do you mean?
Think about it. Above all else, Ginsaku didn't want it known that he had lent Setsu the key.
No one can know.
If Ginsaku was the
But you got
killer,
the key from me.
he would never have put the key in the mummy's hand. He would have kept it immediately. Otherwise, he'd be the first person to come under suspicion for this murder.
I see. That's a good point.
Give me a break.
Ginsaku was not the mummy, so who was it? There's only one person who could have been disguised as the mummy. And that's... There's only one person who could have been the mummy. And that person isn't here now.
What do you mean, isn't here?
I'm referring to the victim. And that would be Setsu.
Nonsense. She was killed before the mummy incident, was she not?
When was Setsu killed? And that's the crux of the matter. Setsu was killed after we saw the mummy sometime around noon.
Hold on. Didn't we agree that the murder happened before the mummy incident?
No. We only established that all of us were free to move about before noon, including Setsu.
So, who locked the storeroom door before we saw the mummy?
Setsu did, after she put on her disguise. She disguised herself as the mummy and waited outside the storeroom for us.
Why would she do such a thing?
Setsu went into the storeroom to tamper with everyone else's items, lowering their value or raising the value of her own. She then put on the mummy disguise to make the curse seem credible, thus further increasing the selling price. Buyers love a good backstory, after all.
Ginsaku's mummy, Masanori's sword, Josu's dragon's blood. Setsu staged her living corpse performance using everyone else's items.
After ditching the mummy disguise, she intended to rejoin us and feign complete ignorance.
But then, she was killed.
We know that the mummy was Setsu. Setsu was still alive around noon, which means the murder took place after that. That leaves only one person who could have possibly been the killer. Yes. The person who killed Setsu is... The person who killed Setsu is... you, Masanori. Isn't it? Straight after the mummy incident, we all gathered here in the lounge, didn't we? It was time for the auction to start, but there was no sign of Setsu. That's when you went looking for her, didn't you? You're the only person who was alone. You left the lounge, went to the storeroom, and killed Setsu. Then you took the key from her, locked the storeroom, and dumped the mummy at the end of the corridor. Once all that was finished, you returned to the lounge. Am I right?
When I went to the storeroom, the door was open. I saw her inside, taking off the mummy disguise. The auction items were all irreparably damaged. So I went up to her and demanded an explanation. Without answering, she suddenly lunged at me, and in the ensuing struggle, that sword just... What happened after that was just as you said. And you know, I thought no one would suspect me if I made use of Setsu's mummy incident. What I said earlier about researching eternal youth, that was a lie. The truth is, someone hired me to search for the Tokijiku. 3 days ago, I heard about this gathering from Setsu. I came here today in the hope that someone might bring the Tokijiku. I intended to win the bid, but even if I didn't, I was just going to take it by force after the auction. In some dark alley at night.
The Tokijiku is the only item that's still missing. You hid it somewhere, didn't you? That fruit was originally mine. Someone stole it from me.
We can assume that Setsu was a thief. Ginsaku, you knew about it, didn't you?
Please give it back to me.
It's not here anymore.
Huh?
As soon as I got it, I handed it off to my employer's lackey outside the manor.
You're lying! Why didn't you run away after that?
Running away is the same as admitting guilt, is it not? That's why I decided to stay. Still, The plan backfired.
Who hired you? There's no reason to hide it anymore.
I think it was the Scarlet Camellia. That's what the lackey said. I've never met them myself. I don't even know if that's their real name.
Officers from the Metropolitan Police arrived a while later and arrested Masanori Minami. My family has received the Tokijiku from the Sakakis for generations. And every 100 years, during our cherry blossom ceremony, someone would be chosen to eat the fruit. But the Sakakis were attacked and wiped out by forces who wanted the Tokijiku. My family had but one Tokijiku left. And since the massacre, we've kept it hidden so the world would never know of its existence. That was the fruit my father entrusted me with.
Take this and leave this place now.
My father's health was poor, and he often stayed in his room, but he was always kind to me. On that day, however, he sounded so serious, so grave. And I just couldn't defy his orders. My father often said that people weren't meant to live without growing old. I think he decided to turn his back on the Shijima family when he gave me the Tokijiku. That's why I have to get it back from this Scarlet Camellia character.
But you still don't know a thing about them. Isn't that dangerous?
But I can't give up.
You certainly are stubborn.
My father often said the same thing. I got it from my mother, apparently. But we were separated when I was a baby, so I don't have any memories of her. He only started calling me stubborn after I decided I wanted to be a writer.
A writer?
Yes. I want someone to read the novels I've written, to meet them, and hear about their impressions about my work. That's my dream. But everyone in my family was against it. They told me I should settle down and get married and raise children because the Shijimas are a family of doctors.
Times change. If you're stubborn enough, you'll always find a way.
That's kind of you to say, Josie. But tell me, why are you after the Tokijiku? It's not something most people know about. No, it's slightly different. You have one too?
As a prisoner of circumstance, I must keep searching for the Scarlet Camellia while guarding this fruit. The Sakaki family you mentioned, they were destroyed by the Scarlet Camellia. Your father was right. You shouldn't get involved. Eternal youth invites death. Ironic, isn't it? As one who doesn't age, I should know.
What? Uncle Azan? Josie?
Yoshino!
It was my uncle, Eizan Shijima, and his companion, Toako.
We've been searching everywhere for you.
Stop right there. You know I don't like it when you smoke.
That's right. Come, let's go back home.
I won't go back!
Your father is worried sick.
You didn't come for me. You want the Tokijiku, don't you?
Wait! Yoshino!
I'm still not feeling well. Josie Kusaka. I didn't have a clue who the real person behind that name was. But returning home was out of the question, and I had no one else to rely on.